Welcome, my friends, to live coverage of GP Rotterdam. This is the final. It all ends here. Riley Knight alongside the Pro Tour champion Simon Goertzen in the booth. And ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to you to our feature match area for the very last time today. Brent Vos, Frank Karsten and Bas Mellis have made it all the way to the final of the home Grand Prix for them. Proud Dutchmen all flying the flag of the Netherlands. But Javier Dominguez, Marcio Carvalho and Luis Salvato are here to take the trophy from the hometown heroes, and all six of these wizards will be doing their best, slinging their spells and fighting these mighty battles to emerge victorious. Simon Goertzen, we've just seen the draft between these two players, and now we're underway.
Yeah, green-white against green-blue. Marcio is on the draw here, but curving out really nicely. Both of these decks accumulating energy. We can expect the blue-green deck to make a bit better use of it, though.
Eddie Tailhawk, the first card to get into the red zone here, getting across for one and poking Carvalho down to 19. Ether Theorist, widely touted as the top blue common here. It's generated Carvalho. A little bit of energy, but we're going to see Vos once again on the front foot. His hand looks absolutely stacked here as we see a Girapur guide come down. This set overloaded with 3 mana 2/3s and 3 mana 3/2s.
Vos missed his third land drop, luckily finding it here. Wants to even go to 4 and 5 with his hand. Marcio, on the other hand, skipped his third drop, not land drop, but didn't cast a 3-drop. So pretty evenly matched, I would say.
High Spire Artisan comes down as a 1/4 reach here for the Portuguese player. And it's back to Vos now to find a way through. He does find land number 4 in the form of a plane, so hopefully no more mana issues for him. I see Thriving Ibex. And it looks like that might be the play here. In fact, 2 copies of Thriving Ibex in the hand of Brent Vos. Nice little role player, the Ibex, but really not the sort of all-star card that we've seen dominating this weekend, Simon.
True.
Carvalho sends a card underground thanks to the Ether Theorist.
Once again, reach being really important here. Otherwise, the Eddie Tailhawk could have easily picked up the Girapur guy to deal 4 damage.
Arborback Stomper here now, gaining Carvalho 5 life and leaving behind a respectable body as well. Comparisons to Thragtusk not completely irrelevant here. 5/4 is certainly a huge beating.
Vos found his land, so that is going for him. His creatures don't line up really well against Carvalho's side of the board. 3 power flyers are not really what you want to be casting for 5 mana.
And Brent takes a moment to consider how he's going to navigate this. Carvalho, as we saw in the draft, picked up a couple of nice ones, a couple of Rashmi Eternity Crafter, in addition to, I saw a few of those enchantments flying around as well, bolstering his team with +1/+1 counters.
Vos is deciding if he wants to deploy Multiform Wonder this turn, which is usually a good idea. It's just not clear how much it's going to really do on this battlefield.
So the Multiform Wonder does take to the skies like no other creature. It can hit for 5 in the air with lifelink as well. And it's gained a bunch of energy as well. We see a D12 come in, the much maligned D12, not used very often. Obviously, Barbarians in D&D would be the people rolling those ones more often than anyone else. But here it's keeping track of Vos's energy. Ether Theorist, scrying once again for Carvalho here.
It looks like I was mistaken. The green-white deck is actually much more heavily energy-focused than Carvalho's, at least from what we're seeing right now. Carvalho content to just fix his draws by scrying with all this energy.
So down goes 1 card again, thanks to the Ether Theorist. Carvalho really squeezing as much value out of those cards as he can. Seems like he's used the Theorist a bunch of times here. Obviously the Attune with Ether, bolstering his energy reserve. And in comes the Arborback Stomper. That's a nice clean hit for 5. Going to knock Brent Vos down to 15. And the follow-up play here is the Durable Handicraft, of which there are 2 copies in Carvalho's deck, as we saw during his draft. So this means that creatures played off-curve come in with a +1/+1 counter, and that's much more relevant in this set than it has been in others.
Yeah, there are a lot of synergies surrounding +1/+1 counters, but also the way these creatures line up, it's often the big differentiator if you can go up to this 4 or 5 points of power or toughness, because suddenly all your creatures, all the opposing creatures will just feel really tiny.
Yeah,
compared to
they'll
what you're
be
doing.
dwarfed by the huge green monsters that Carvalho is looking to play here. And green-blue as well, a colour combination that's just been so impressive throughout this weekend.
I agree, and had Voss blocked the Arborback Stomper there, he would have run into a combat trick very easily. So instead, he decides to take things to a race, as we've seen so many times this weekend.
And if there's one card that's excellent in a racing situation, it's Multiform Wonder. This card jumps into the air, grabs lifelink turns energy into lifelink here, and this could be huge. But it's going to be what looks like an Ornamental Courage, untapping the Arborback Stomper, and that's going to provide Carvalho with a good opportunity to block here.
Yeah, so that's a 6/6 blocking the Wanderer.
I think it's even bigger than that. It may even be a 6/7 here. +1/+3, thanks to the Ornamental Courage, means that the 5/4 grows to truly monstrous proportions here. It's going to start wrecking stuff like a bull in a china shop, and we're going to see a response here from Brett Voss, and it's Inspired Charge as well. So Brett Voss, without his, definitely has something to say here to the play from Carvalho. Not quite enough to make the Girapur guide trade with the Arborback Stomper, but all the same, we're going to see some activations of the Multiform Wonder here. Lifelink, I imagine, would be pretty high on the agenda. Always so sweet to get those huge life swings in. We see now another energy gets spent, and we'll have confirmation of exactly which modes are being selected in a short amount of time.
Yeah, we might have to do the math ourselves, but we'll see, for example, if Voss gains life this turn. Not going to be relevant at all.
No, Carvalho has another trick here in a select for inspection.
Keeps the card on top as well.
Yeah, not a good sign for his opponent. So that Arborback Stomper cleans up the Girapur guide.
Really smart block there by Carvalho.
Yeah.
He blocked a 3-power creature so that even an Inspired Charge would not be enough on its own.
Yep, that Ornamental Courage making sure the Arborback Stomper lives to fight another day. And look at that. Wreck your face once again. And another follow-up with a huge fatty. Here's a Cowl Prowler as well. 6 mana, 6/6. Simple as that. And Carvalho, like a bull in a china shop, is really taking the fight to Brent Voss.
Also playing extremely quickly. He left a land on top because he knew that he had the 6-drop, but also wants to be able to activate Durable Handicraft once he runs out of creatures.
Yeah, so we haven't seen Durable Handicraft do anything at the moment. But the Gavany Township mode active on that card as soon as Carvalho untaps here. And now the question remains, what will Voss do? Still a bunch of energy in his reserve here. So able to still gain some value from the Multiform Wonder.
I expect the Wander to come down with the much more modest plan of just trading with Arborback Stomper. Then you still have to worry about the worm and your life total, because you're not winning the race. You dealt with High Spire Artisan, but you didn't deal with the real problems on this board.
And blue, which is such an unorthodox choice in this format, is so well paired with the green cards, the massive beaters here. We see Sky Swirl Harrier come down, the 3/4 in the air, and Ether Theorist scrying once again. So Carvalho all out of energy here, but kept a card on top, so he obviously likes what he sees. We're going to see some blocks lined up now. As Voss considers, looks like it'll be the double block, and then are we going to see a chump on the Prowler? So Carvalho might be ushering his opponent through the blocking step as quickly as possible. He can obviously smell blood in the water here. Carvalho taking on the role of a shark. Not the first time he's done it, I'm sure.
Voss is wondering whether he should already start chump blocking to prevent the 6 point of damage that the worm is threatening. Wow.
And another one here. Look at this. Just monster after monster for Carvalho. Ripping absolute pepperoni off the top of his library here. It is a Riparian Tiger here. And coming down as a 5/5, attacking as a 7/7. Can Voss find a way out here? Carvalho in an extremely commanding position and looking to take the first game as his teammate Luis Salvato has done against Bas Melis.
Such a beefy deck. We haven't really seen this.
No.
The really large green creatures win in that fashion.
Yeah, really underdrafted, I would say, the huge green monsters here. Not a lot of people respecting the Cow Prowler. Obviously, Riparian Tiger got a lot of press over the weekend. Really one of the standout cards for me across the tournament here.
But also, at the same time, I'm not too impressed with what Brent Voss has brought to the table. Green-White needs, in my opinion, more clear synergies to actually fight against the stronger decks of the format.
Carvalho draws. No scrying for him. Has a quick check on the card, but he's going to be much more interested in the combat step here, which is exactly where he goes. And now, the Tiger. No energy in Carvalho's pull, so it looks to have been used on the Tiger here.
This is almost threatening lethal already because of the trample on the Tiger.
So we see a nice big block here coming down from Brent Voss. And what does Voss have to do? What to say here? We see Multiform Wonder first, Thriving Ibex second.
The cards that allowed Carvalho to enable these fat monsters were really cheap cards. Ornamental Courage and Select for Inspection made all of this possible.
So we see an activation of Multiform Wonder. Of course, the card can gain either Vigilance, First Strike, or Lifelink. Sorry, Vigilance, Flying, or Lifelink here. Or alternatively, +2, -2, or -2, +2.
Yeah, we would expect some extra power to be generated.
You would think so. And Lifelink as well, I would say. So players sorting out the dust as it settles now on this particular combat step.
Okay. It seems like there was some confusion about the damage being dealt by the Tiger, because I believe that the Wanderer had 1 toughness.
So Voss goes to 3 now. Wild Wanderer comes in as a 4-3, and here we see the durable handicraft really getting it done for the Portuguese player. Voss. See a land in his hand. 2 other non-land cards I saw very briefly there. And Carvalho with the white splash as well, Zimon. Mild seismic activity here at GP Rotterdam. Seems to be localized just on the feature match area as Pima Outrider comes down with a servo token. That's going to be a useful way to keep the 6/6 at bay. And now a Thriving Ibex. 2 more energy for Voss, and it's back to Carvalho.
Who at least doesn't have a Trampler anymore.
So again, relentlessly getting into the red zone here with his creatures. That Ether Theorist hanging out just to watch the watch from afar. And now Voss once again hellbent at this point, having to block.
No easy way to block a 4/3. So even more difficult to kill the worm here. Actually, 3, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, you would have to block the worm with all of your creatures, but then you would be dead to the unblocked creature. So that was not an option.
The Wild Wanderer, as it happens, hits the bin. Pima Outrider and Eddie Tailhawk, the only remaining creatures for Brent Voss, as he draws a land. So Core Prowler now threatens to really run away with this game, as it has threatened to from the very beginning. I mean, that situation, I think, is well and truly where we're at. Perhaps not running away with the game, slithering away for sure. Squirming away. Eddie Tailhawk jumping in the way of the Cow Prowler, and now we see a 3/3 Windrake come down. Does Voss have what it takes to beat it? Glintsleeve Artisan suggests he does not, and Brent Voss packs it up. And the team to the right of your screen, Dominguez, Carvalho, and Salvato, go up in straight sets, 1, 1, and 1, unanswered by the Dutch players to the left of your screen. You can see them there, carefully considering their next moves. 2 of them, it looks like Bas Melis and Luis Salvato are already into a game 2 after a rather brief game 1, Zimon.
Yeah, I'm very impressed once again by how easy Carvalho makes limited look. How he dismantled his opponent with almost no way for things to go wrong.
So Bas Melis has opened up the robot zoo here. But before you know it, the Peafowl has headed to the battlefield, or headed to the graveyard from the battlefield. The Mastodon's still sticking around. Beep boop, Robot Elephant is here. In addition to the High Spire Artisan as a 1/4. Fragmentize, a card that really, I think, warrants main deck inclusion in this format. So many artifacts running around that you care about. And Baz Mellis, another player here, leaning on some artifact synergies.
Yeah, getting a forecasting cost card with it is also the largest tempo gain you can generate.
The sweetest of fruits, as we see now. Mellis. Is that a Fragmentize in his hand as well, Simon?
Potentially, yes, but not as juicy targets, I would say.
In comes the Bastion Mastodon. The Robot Elephant getting stuck in a big way. And Salvato here is going to have to think about how he wants to block. And we're going to see 1, 2, 3. Wow, a very, very emphatic block there as he plops his creatures on top of the Mastodon.
Yeah, that's representing 5 power, and you would lose 2 creatures of your own, but at the same time you are enticing Melis to actually go for some kind of combat trick or removal spell, and then you could punish him with Select for Inspection.
So now another High Spire Artisan. We've seen Mellis play this card time and time again, and it's going to be Gearseeker Serpent now for Salvato. The cost of the 5/6 reduced by the existence of that servo token.
Melis flooding out a little bit here. We might see soon what he is holding now. He's hiding it behind his land.
Not a lot going on the side of Baz Mellis here. Salvato fiddling with his graveyard, draws a card. He's found his way to 7 mana. I can see a Fairgrounds Warden in his hand as well. What looks like a Fairgrounds Warden at least. In comes the Gearseeker Serpent. Salvato, content enough to let Mellis block here.
Of course, there's nothing to fear, really. If you want to continue deploying threats. Oh.
Passes the turn. 3 cards in hand for Salvato. Now it's back to Mellis. Now all these guys have to do is win, 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 baby, win. As we see Prophetic Prism come down. And it's drawn another land here, so Mellis flooding out in a bad way. Seems to be on 3 colors. With another swamp, the draw. And has to ship the turn back. 3-color draft decks, a risky proposition in many cases, but green does have the tools to help these 3-color decks fix their mana. And he's a Cloud Blazer as well, so Luis Salvato with a very impressive plays here. Gains 2, draws 2. Plains and an unknown card, the draw here.
Thus far, this has been one of the most lopsided matches I've seen this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't look like the Dutch players have really had a sniff. And here's one of the cards that has been splashed for.
The fairy tale story of Frank and his friends winning their local GP seems a bit less likely now.
It's under threat here as Lawless Broker really not making an impact. Maybe this isn't a splash deck. Maybe this is just a straight up 3-color deck here. The Gearseeker Serpent coming in for another 5. Unable to be blocked, of course, this time with the activation from Salvato. And Baz Mellis really doing the old Johnny Farnham and looking straight down the barrel of a gun as Fragmentize number 2. No, sorry, it was Salvato with the Fragmentize. So Fragmentize drawn by Baz Mellis, and he's going to make the he's going to receive a Gearseeker Serpent straight to the dome. And that'll be the first game win here for the Portuguese, the team led by the Portuguese player, Marcio Carvalho. This year's Draft Master certainly showing his stripes off here in this setting.
World champion finalist.
World champion finalist as well here, Marcio Carvalho. You see him only 1 game away from claiming the title. As Luis Salvato moves around to offer words of wisdom and expertise to Dominguez and Carvalho. We're checking in with Dominguez now, who's playing against the Dutch Hall of Famer, the Flying Dutchman, Frank Karsten.
All of these drafters on the Dominguez Carvalho Salvato team have been really, really high on generating early board advantage. You can see them play very, very low curves, all the cheap tricks that have been so important this weekend, and they're getting rewarded for it.
Yeah, and a lot of early pressure coming from Dominguez here, Embral Bruiser, in addition to, wow, I mean, one of the worst Torch Fiends we've seen in quite a while. Karsten, on the other hand, A huge threat in Pianala. Really, really efficient card. Much less embarrassing than Ruinous Gremlin, but it looks like Javier Dominguez is really wanting to, as you say, get on the front foot here. Embral Bruiser across for 3. And Foundry Inspector is going to help power out some more artifacts, should Dominguez have them. So the Dutch players yet to pick up a win in the final, as we see now Ether Hub generate an energy for Karsten.
Brent needs to win 2 in a row, and Frank needs to win 2 in a row. That's the reality of this final.
Javier needs to win 1, or Carvalho can also win 1. In comes the Thopter now, uncontested, ruling the skies, the little 1-1. And here we see another Lawless Broker. Karsten holding up any colour of mana here with the Ether Hub. We've seen Combat Tricks play a pivotal role in matches in and out of this weekend.
The menace on Embral Bruiser, as long as Dominguez controls an artifact, makes it really difficult for Karsten to block because of the power toughness combinations that he so far had available. And now if you double block with your 2 best permanents, it's risky business.
Yeah, incredibly risky, as more or less any combat trick completely ruins you here. And there are so many in black and red that can do so much damage. Built to Smash comes to mind, Subtle Strike, Rush of Vitality amongst them.
Rush of Vitality would be insanely powerful.
And we're going to see the double block. But no, straight up trade here. Pianala trading off of the Embral Bruiser. But there's a follow-up play now. It's a Ballista Charger.
And this tells you something about how Frank sees himself this game. If you didn't feel like you were significantly behind, you wouldn't make such a dangerous double block.
No, that's right. And Karsten really sees himself as having to just get it done here, with Dominguez on the front foot with a Ballista Charger powered out by the Foundry Inspector. But Karsten with a follow-up play of a Wayward Giant. Ballista Charger is 6/6, able to attack through the Giant once crewed. Crew costs 3, which Dominguez can certainly pay. So as we said, the tournament really resting on this game. A victory for Javier Dominguez will push his team over the edge and get them into the win zone here. They'll be chasing down that victory with great hunger. We've had a great weekend so far. I mean, all of the teams in the top 4 absolutely crushing it day in and day out across the time of the tournament.
And outside the top 4 as well. Crushing it until the top 4 started.
And now we see a Spy-Side Infiltrator join the Dominguez party.
That's the perfect card to crew your Ballista Charger.
Absolutely, when it becomes tap, doing 1 more damage here. And the Ballista Charger also able to get in for a point here and there.
At the very least, you get to kill the Thopter.
So the Spy-Side Infiltrator dealing 1 damage to Karsten, and now the Ballista Charger is going to come across. And we're going to see 1 damage pointed at the Wayward Giant. So
and why is that?
4/5 now.
That is, of course, to make a double block less interesting, less valuable.
A double block would mean a straight up 2-for-1 here. The Ballista Charger would trade with the Wayward Giant and the Embral Bruiser. Both of them together, meaning that double blocking, an unattractive prospect for the Flying Dutchman. All the same, he's going to have to take the bait. He needs to get back in this game. And I think step 1 is removing that huge threat from his opponent. Karsten left with a 2-2 in the air. That's going to do some work still, but Karsten with a lot of digging, and it's very difficult to dig up in my experience.
Also, the Thopter is an artifact, so that Ruinous Gremlin might have something to snack on very, very soon. But first, let's see what Frank can play to defend himself.
A tentative attack here with the Thopter. Attacking with artifacts is what Dr. Frank is known best for. And an ambitious Etherborn comes down as well. Comes down as a 5/4.
4 toughness creature is exactly what he needed here.
Yes, it can hold off the Infiltrator in addition to the Inspector. Oh, but not after the other Torch Renegade has something to say about it. Now on thriving Grubs as well. Karsten with a moment's breathing room thanks to the 5-4 being played here.
Yeah, he would need another 4 toughness creature so that at least either Torch Renegade doesn't threaten to take out his whole board if he tries to block. And it can't be an artifact because then the gremlins would take it out.
Just munch away on it, that's right. See if Karsten can wriggle his way out of this one. Of course, let's not forget Brent Voss is also fighting for his life against Marcio Carvalho on the table opposite.
Frank should really take a page out of Kenji Tamura's book and just slam down a Demon of Dark Schemes. That's usually a good way to deal with situations like this.
We saw Tamura absolutely tear his opponent to shreds with the Demon of Dark Schemes earlier in the tournament, but if Karsten has access to these, he's certainly hitting the tank about it. Seems like a good play. Although we haven't seen Karsten with anything of that nature.
Oh, the most powerful card, Pianalar, had to block. The Thopter, still alive, has been doing heavy lifting for Frank.
Karsten once again looking to be aggressive and keep his opponent honest here.
Sometimes offense is the best defense.
Sometimes. Sometimes defense is the best defense as well. Changes. But in this case, Karsten looking to put some pressure on his opponent here. And Dominguez has to decide how to respond.
Dominguez doesn't have attractive block, so almost forced to go down to 9. And Frank could calculate that, I assume. Passing the turn.
Passing the turn after attacking with both of his creatures. What does he have here?
I think Javier is asking the same question.
Yeah, he's talking.
Literally.
Actually saying, what is going on here? What is going on? As his lands explode into his lap here. Picks them up and restores them into their place. Bit of fiddly farting going on with the lands of Dominguez there. And now we see... Oh, no, we don't. Keeping that card a secret to all but himself and his teammates here, Dominguez.
How likely is Frank holding 2 lands based on his behavior?
I couldn't tell you.
I wouldn't put it beyond him to just having a great big laugh.
Really making his opponent sweat it out here. He could be dead to rights, Karsten, but he's certainly making Dominguez earn this victory, as indeed you should. So how is Dominguez going to play this one out? He's also getting close to the hidden mode on Nether Torch Renegade. Only 8 mana required. Oh, sorry, 8 energy required, I should say, to deal 6 to the face. Karsten.
I would love to see an incendiary sabotage.
Hello.
From Karsten.
Incendiary Sabotage, dealing 3 damage at instant speed at the cost of sacrificing an artifact and 4 mana. Is that what Karsten has for a spectacular blowout? Looks like he's reaching for his pen after this attack. That's not a good sign for the Dutchman. See Thriving Grubs gaining a counter. He picks up his cards. Does Karsten have anything at all? Dominguez very ready to note down any changes in the life totals here.
Dominguez also quite defensive, not getting in with everything there.
Brent Voss has managed to get up against Marcio Carvalho. Step 1 for the Dutch team here. A win. Step 2, 3, and 4. See step 1. So the pressure eases a little bit on the Dutch team, but they've still got so much work to do here, Simon Gertzen.
And the problem is, this Ruinous Gremlin and 3 mana actually means an almost free block for Dominguez. So I can't see a repeat attack similar to the one that we saw the previous turn.
Karsten down to 8. 3 cards in hand. You assume no Incendiary Sabotage. But Ruinous Gremlin, a card that's been pretty low on the radar of people, but it's certainly doing some work here, keeping that Thopter honest.
It's far from unplayable. Let's be honest. There are a lot of very powerful artifacts in this set.
Here's one of them. World Fast Monitor. Once again, another 3-mana 3-2. Set completely overrun with these 3-cost creatures. A real glut of them. A lot of this meaning you need to adopt quite an aggressive posture early on. There are going to be trades. There's going to be creatures bumping into each other. And we're going to see now the Ruinous Gremlin have something of a snack. Go and pass out in a food coma. Eating up the lizard. There we go. Delicacy. Considered a delicacy in many parts of the world. Lizard meat. And it looks like the Ruinous Gremlin is really getting amongst the bit of international cuisine here.
Dominguez doesn't have anything. He's sitting there with 2 swamps. So he needs the creatures that he has to take it home. And he needs to rely on Frank not having anything of impact here.
So, we see the grubs grow to 4/3s. We see the Thopter with an easy block on the Infiltrator. The ambitious Etherborn's ambitions might be squashed by these thriving grubs here. It's so important to dream, Simon Goertzen. So important to have ambitions. Rise above. And right now here, cast a knock down to 4 by the Foundry Inspector, but making Dominguez's board a little more manageable. Still 2 creatures to face down, both of which can unload a fair whack of damage to Karsten. In fact, it would be lethal next turn, should Karsten have nothing. Dominguez, as you mentioned, just on mono lands here. Karsten, on the other hand, it's another ambitious Etherborn. And this time, once again, it's going to come down as a 5/4. That could hold off the Foundry Inspector. Definitely a non-land card, a creature card too for Dominguez here. He's flipping it around.
The Ether Torch Renegade, of course, always preparing that last point of damage.
But a forced block.
For Karsten's blockers, exactly.
Forced block for Karsten as Thriving Rats comes in and continues to bolster Dominguez's energy reserve. Karsten now, top of his library, is going to have to treat him kindly here. 4 mana. And knock knock, who's there? I'll tell you who, it's the Morpheus Doorbuster.
Too late.
Entirely appropriate here. Once again, the flavor text on this card showing us exactly how relevant it can be. As Thriving Rats, ooh, no, we saw the beginning of an attack, and yes, indeed, 2 energy transformed into a +1/+1 counter, and the 2/2 comes across. And once again, this Ether Torch Renegade, well, now without any energy, actually, it can't finish off the Doorbusters. Not that there's any need to, seeing as the Rats trades up with it straight up.
Yeah, that's the key point.
Karsten here, as a hush falls over the venue, has to decide whether he's going to block. He's going to halve his life total if he doesn't. Heart-stopping moments here at GP Rotterdam, around the world, wherever you are. I would like to thank you for choosing to join us. It's been a rip-roar of a weekend and an appropriate conclusion here with a tense nail-biter coming down between some of the most skilled players in the world here. Frank Karsten, the hometown hero, the Dutch Hall of Famer, flying the Dutch flag proudly with him and his teammates here. Javier Dominguez, Marcio Carvalho and Luis Salvato poised to take the trophy. But right now, Karsten seems to have taken the damage, and the follow-up play here, it's a vehicle. Toot toot, all aboard. It's the Aradara Express. Next stop, your face.
But not the power to activate it yet.
So Karsten, that life total doesn't seem to have changed, but my calculation, he's at 2.
I believe so as well.
Multiform Wonder as well, the play here
Wow.
for Dominguez, really ripping the hottest of pepperoni off his deck. That means that the Aradara Express can be crewed. And will the timely departure of this train be enough to push things over the edge for Dominguez here? We see indeed the Multiform Wonder jump inside the train. One of the forms of the Multiform Wonder seems to be a train conductor. 1 mana. And it's built to smash, and that is that. There we go. Frank Karsten ending the game in style as you see the jubilant faces of these players here as they have taken out GP Rotterdam. They came, they saw, and they crushed their enemies. And the Dutch players very graciously accepting defeat. But Simon Goertzen, what a performance from the 2016 Draft Master and his teammates.
Yeah, and the national champions of their respective countries. Spanish national champion, Portuguese national champion, and Argentinian national champion joining forces to take down Grand Prix Rotterdam.
A truly impressive performance, and you can see here, probably texting his mum, "Mum, I just won a GP." You don't know what that means, but still be proud of me. We'll be back to wrap things up here at GP Rotterdam in just a minute or so, so don't go anywhere. We'll see you soon. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the booth.